So, I found an interesting article about Stoicism well, not necessarily about Stoicism, but using Stoicism to get to somewhere. I'm going to read it and I'm going to add some things that I think are valuable and worth adding. As always, the link to this article is going to be down in the description. So if you want to check it out on your own, which probably is going to be faster, also considering that I'm probably not going to go through the whole one. So yeah, please do so. The proper application of preconceptions, curing, quote unquote, the cause of all human ills by Greg Lopez, which, as funny as it might sound, is written by Gregory Sadler. Anyway, let me ask you a question. According to Epictetus, what is the main cause of human ills? Think about it for a few seconds. So what might it be? Probably the human per se, our mind. If you're familiar with his ideas, perhaps you answered wanting what's outside of your control, or maybe failing to get what you desire and failing to avoid what you want to avoid. These are both solid answers. However, according to Epictetus, they are not the ultimate cause of human ills. There is something even more fundamental. And there's a quote from Discourses by Epictetus. The cause of all human ills is that people aren't able to apply their general conceptions or preconceptions to the particular cases. Discourses 4.1.42 Robin Hart Trends. This is, translation. This is a weird statement for a couple of reasons. The first is that it's pretty absolute. Epictetus is telling us that there is a single cause for everything that ails humanity. That is a bold claim, to say the least, but if it's true, then it's important to understand and utilize as a practicing Stoic, since it's supposedly responsible for every human ill. The second reason that it is a weird statement, or that it is a weird statement, is that it's not at all clear what Epictetus is talking about. What Epictetus is talking about. For starters, what are general preconceptions? And even if you know what they are, how would you, as a practicing Stoic, apply them to particular cases, quote unquote? And most importantly, how is any of this relevant to your Stoic practice? The goal of this essay, based off my workshop at StoicCon 2018, is to answer these questions. So let's start with the first one. What is a preconception? The simple version. Another question, what's this? And there we can see a square, a blue square, a deep blue square. You probably answered a blue square. If so, you've applied not one but two preconceptions to a particular case. The preconceptions were blue and square, and the particular case is the picture. Based on this example, what would you say a preconception is? What does it mean to apply preconceptions to particular cases? Take a few moments to think this through. Well, I'm seeing a blue square, and I've used two preconceptions in a particular case even as well. And one of them is blue and the other one is square. Well, it's basically what I'm seeing. What is blue? This apparently is blue. What is a square? This apparently is a square. So preconception, pre meaning before, and conception maybe coming from concept. Maybe applying a concept, the concept of blue and the concept of square, which you know from something before or something that you've seen before, to something new. You might have seen a square before and it looked like this. And you might have seen blue before and it looked like this. Anyway, let's actually see what the answer is. So what is a preconception? Is it actually preconception? Yeah, the complicated version. The term preconception is a translation of the Greek word prolepsis, which literally means before grasping or seizing. According to its etymology, you can think of it as the stuff that happens in your mind before you consciously grab hold of an idea. However, learning an etymology alone isn't a good idea. To get a better idea of what a preconception is, let's look at how the scholars Anthony Long and David Sadler define preconceptions. The natural accumulation of experience of perceptible objects through many memories of a similar kind results in generic impressions or conceptions of a man, horse, white, etc. The Stoics called naturally acquired generic impressions preconceptions, using this term to distinguish them from conceptions that are culturally determined or deliberately acquired. Long and Sedley, 39. In other words, Long and Sedley state that preconceptions seem to occur naturally when we are constantly exposed to similar objects. Most humans' brains are built to abstract what's similar about things that are repeatedly encountered, put them into categories and name them. This process was what the Epicureans and later the Stoics called preconceptions. These are naturally acquired as opposed to learned like Python programming, or culturally determined like what makes for palatable food. While we form preconceptions naturally, we need quite a lot of practice to actually apply them accurately and well. Emphasizing accurately and well. This is exactly where Stoic teachers like Epictetus can help us out. So why did Epictetus care about preconceptions? While the proper application of preconceptions was important to Epictetus, he doesn't seem concerned with the proper application of every preconception we have. Instead, he emphasizes those preconceptions that have something to do with the most important questions human beings can ask themselves. For example, how can we tell what's really good in life? What is it to be brave? And how can an act be just? Exactly. So here is one example where Epictetus focuses on preconceptions related to value and virtues exclusively. Preconceptions are common, and this is a quote by the way. Preconceptions are common to all people, and one preconception doesn't contradict another. For who among us doesn't assume that the good is beneficial and desirable, and that we should seek and pursue it in every circumstance? And who among us doesn't assume that what is just is honorable and appropriate? When does contradiction arise, then? It comes about when we apply our preconceptions to particular cases, as when one person says, he acted well, he is a brave man, while another says, no, he is out of his mind. That is how people come to fall into disagreement. This causes 1.22.1-3. Robin Hart, translation once again. So Epictetus isn't into preconceptions because he wants to sound smart at cocktail parties. He emphasizes their application because he believes that they are the reason why people disagree about how to live a good life and what it consists of. And since Epictetus trained his students in a 3-stage program to live a good life, it should be no surprise that we find the proper application of preconception playing a role in these 3 disciplines. For instance, here's Epictetus talking about properly applying preconceptions in the first discipline, named the Principle of Desire, by Pierre Hadet. Well, it's probably French and therefore pronounced wrongly. Of his 3-pronged curriculum. Let's see, and this is a quote, by the way. If you know how to apply your preconceptions properly, why is it that you are troubled, that you are frustrated? For the present, let's leave aside the second field of study relating to motives and how they may be appropriately regulated. And let's also leave aside the third relating to assent. I let you off all of that. Let's concentrate on the first field, which will provide us with almost palpable proof that you don't know how to apply your preconceptions properly. Do you presently desire what is possible and what is possible for you in particular? Why then are you frustrated? Why are you troubled? Aren't you presently trying to avoid what is inevitable? This causes 2.17.14-18. The goal of the discipline of desire is to remove passions. If you're familiar with Stoicism, you probably think that passions come from wanting things that aren't under your complete control. And while you aren't wrong to think this, it is not the whole story. As the quote above demonstrates, there is actually something more fundamental going on that causes us to desire what's beyond our control. The cause is not being able to apply our preconceptions properly. Epictetus explicitly states in the quote above that we suffer trouble and frustration when we want what isn't fully in our control, i.e., what is possible. And he says that's the cause of these misplaced desires is precisely the misapplication of our preconceptions. This suggests that in order to change our desires, it's necessary to learn to apply our preconceptions well. We can see how applying preconceptions plays a key role in Epictetus' second discipline, the discipline of action, elsewhere in the discourses. And there's a quote once again. For a rational being, only what is contrary to nature is unendurable, while anything that is reasonable can be endured. Blows are not by nature unendurable. How so? Look at it in this way. Spartans will put up with it with a beating in the knowledge that it is a reasonable punishment, but to be hanged isn't that past bearing. When someone feels it to be reasonable, though, he'll go off and hang himself. In short, if we look with due care, we will find that there is nothing by which the rational creature is so distressed as by that which is contrary to reason, and that conversely, there is nothing to which he is so attracted as that which is reasonable. But these concepts of the reasonable and unreasonable mean different things to different people, as do those of good and bad, hence the profitable and unprofitable. It is for that reason above all that we have need of education, so as to be able to apply our preconceptions of what is reasonable and unreasonable to particular cases in accordance with nature. Discourses 1.2.1-6. The goal of the discipline of action is to learn how to act in the world. This isn't exactly earth-scattering news. What may be more surprising is that preconceptions are essential to Epictetus' way of teaching his students how to act. As the passage above makes clear, the preconception of what's reasonable, quote-unquote, and unreasonable, quote-unquote, endurable and unendurable, again, quote-unquote, directly relates to how we act in the world. In short, we need to understand preconceptions in order to act stoically. Epictetus also implies that having clear preconceptions is an essential part of the third area of his Stoic training, the discipline of assent. Against specious appearances, we should apply clear preconceptions, keeping them well polished and ready for use. Discourses 1.27.6. This quote is relevant to the discipline of assent since it's directly discussing the main task of that discipline, to learn what appearances, sometimes translated as impressions, you should assent or agree to. Note that Epictetus asserts that properly applying preconceptions is a key part of this task. By now, it is hopefully clear why Epictetus cared about preconceptions, because their proper application is necessary to practice all three of his disciplines. But the devil's in the detail. So what exactly does it mean to, quote-unquote, properly apply preconceptions? According to the quote above, it involves keeping them well polished and clear. Unfortunately, it is far from obvious what Epictetus actually means by this flowery language. You can't exactly whip out a preconception from your pocket and buff it to a shine. So how will you as a Stoic student keep your preconceptions, quote-unquote, well polished? In practice, so that they can be properly applied, there are 3 steps. The first involves using our rational faculties to dig into our psychology and make explicit what we already know. So this is kind of the introduction to the whole thing. And the next part would be step 1, make your preconceptions more explicit, which we're not going to go through today, but rather on another day. But as I said before, please check out the article. You're probably going to be faster than I am going through this, and maybe it's also going to be more efficient for you. I mean, by reading it on your own and not basically listening to it. So up to this point, I don't necessarily know what preconceptions are, also because I focused on reading as well as I can rather than understanding everything as well as I can. 2 different things. But anyway, maybe I'm going to read it in my leisure time and or privately once again, so to fully grasp the whole thing. But we're gonna see, we're gonna see in the next episode. So yeah, gonna see you the next time. Bye. I wish you the best. Please stay safe and healthy and keep an eye on you feeling good. Bye.